Some sad news coming out of the hockey world as voice of the literal game itself, Bob Cole, has passed away. I remember being in high school when I got a job working in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. I was doing play-by-play for the Calgary Mustangs. Got the job through a couple of my phys ed teachers that worked with the team. And I remember going to David Bauer Arena thinking to myself, like, oh man, one day I'm going to call a Stanley Cup final game with Bob and with Harry Neale, and it's going to be so cool. And though things kind of have pivoted since, you still have to remind yourself that being able to make these vids and so many people that are in hockey media, like as an actual career, not just making these kinds of silly videos that I do, we're all here standing on shoulders of absolute giants that were here before us. Bob Cole was one of those personalities and voices who transcended hockey itself. He was the voice of this nation. And in a couple of seconds, I'm just going to quickly add in some of my own personal favorite and some of the internet's favorite calls that he's made during his career. But it was in 2002 when Canada was up 5-2, and we're in the dying seconds of the third as the clock was reaching 0, or I guess 20 because of like the international ticker or whatever. Anyways, as the game was ending and the crowd just erupts into a singing of "Oh Canada" out in Salt Lake City. He went on to make one of his more iconic calls, and to me, having been a kid at that time, one of the most iconic calls that I've ever heard. And hearing that kind of just getting into hockey for the first time, it just really makes you proud to be a fan of this game and to be a Canadian. He went on to say that after 50 years, it's finally time to stand up, Canada. And I think today, Bob, Canada's standing up for you.
Gold medal. Now, after 50 years, it's time for Canada to stand up and cheer. Stand up and cheer, everybody. The Olympics, Salt Lake City, 2002 men's ice hockey gold medal. Canada. Looks around, looks for help, gets it over. Hotzer scores. Hotzer's wins the game for Chicago. Turning the heat on. Down again over the line. Samsonov. Backdrop shot. Score. What a goal. What a goal. You can't hear a word here. This crowd is in a frenzy. Steos trailing the play. Perfect setup. It is 3-0. This is some kind of playoff hockey here in Edmonton. Let me tell you. Welcome to Oiler country, they say. Here comes the siren. Here come the Flames. Champions. 1989. A Stanley Cup has been won by Calgary. The New York Rangers have done it here on a hot June night in New York. The Rangers are Stanley Cup champions. The net, Andrechuk in front with Borshevsky. It is Gilmore waiting around the net, waiting, he's open. Gilmore! Solo job! And he's won it in a second overtime period. How about that? Here's Sador racing in. He's around the net, trying to come out and jam it in. Luke Pope! Oh my goodness! Curtis Joseph has made the play of the series. Stopped by Lindgren again. And the Canadians say goodbye to this season with a win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that is all she wrote.
There's a new bunch on the block in the National Hockey League. The Edmonton Oilers have won the Stanley Cup.
So, Bob, tell us why and how the new bunch on the block came about.
I'm not quite sure, John, but I kind of fell in love with this group, these young Oilers in '83, when they got all the way to the Stanley Cup final in Long Island. That was a dynasty with the Islanders, and they lost in 4 games. And I remember walking out with Wayne and Glenn and Paul and all the guys, and everybody was just in silence, just walking and bruised and tired and worn out. And then the next year, I lived through it, and I really fell in love with this team. They made me feel so comfortable. And we got together again, as everybody knows, the next year in '84, and they won their first Stanley Cup. The first of 4 here in this old building, which we're saying goodbye to tonight. And it just happened. A new bunch on the block. Sometimes you're wrong, but I was right. New bunch.